these textbooks, that's exactly what they do. They present it as a fact, as an absolute, as an unquestionable. They go through some of the evidences. Roger, here's one of them. Tell me what you say about this, Roger. Here it is. Evidence for evolution. That's my title right here. Evidence for evolution. Number one, the fossil record. By Darwin's time, scientists knew that fossils were the remains of ancient life and that different layers of rock had been formed at different times during Earth's history. Darwin saw fossils as a record of the history of life on Earth. Roger? What do you think? They just gave me evidence of evolution, or gave students supposed evidence of evolution.
They can make those claims. And again, we wouldn't agree that fossils are the remains of living organisms. They're there in the rock layers. We would agree that the rock layers were laid down in a specific sequence over time. So the question goes back to, how do we interpret that, and how much time passed between each of those layers? How long did it take to form? And so from a biblical perspective, we would have a radically different view. We would say those fossil layers formed primarily during the year-long flood that's described in Genesis, and that's the record of death and judgment that God brought on the earth for its wickedness. And we can look at the way that those fossils are organized, and there is an apparent general order in the fossils, and we can see that. But there's also a lot of things mixed up. So I grew up in southern Idaho, northern Utah, and Wyoming, and Montana, living around those areas. Lots of dinosaurs in those areas. One of the National Dinosaur Monument there in northern Utah has a massive wall. You can go inside and see all these dinosaur bones spread out across this area. And what's mixed in with them all over the place that you don't hear about? Little clams, okay, and big clams. And the clams are closed, like they were caught up in some catastrophic flood and buried there with those dinosaurs. So what are clams doing with these big dinosaurs? And how do we explain all of those things, if not some major catastrophic process? So as we look at the apparent order that they're showing in the fossil record, there are a lot of problems with that. And another of those is fossils that look exactly like living organisms today. We can find crabs and shells and other types of sea creatures buried in those rock layers that they claim are hundreds of millions of years old. And I can sit a live one right next to it, and you'd say, oh, that looks pretty much the same. So evolution then is so plastic of a theory that it can explain no change over hundreds of millions of years, and it can explain massive change from birds or dinosaurs into birds over those millions of years.